there's a sense in which the crucifixion is in many ways a way to answer the problem that is set up in Genesis, which is the problem of identity, the problem of inside and outside, the problem of purpose and breakdown. And the way in which Christ seems to answer it is that instead of blaming others, you take the blame on yourself. Because that's what happens in the garden, right? In the garden, Adam blames Eve. Eve blames the serpent. And that brings about the fall. It's not just the eating of the fruit. There are many of the fathers that say that God gives Adam and Eve a way out at every part of the story. He said if they had taken the blame for eating the fruit, they would have gotten a way out, like et cetera, et cetera. But they just keep doubling down into their division and they break down into chaos. And then Jesus flips it. Jesus says, okay, I'm willing to die. I'm willing, and then I will eat the fruit of the knowledge of good and evil out of obedience, not out of pride, not out of like self-taking. And what that will do is it'll transform the very basis of the world. It'll transform reality. It will create a body, right, that is cohesive and held together in love, instead of a body that is divided and broken and fighting amongst each other. And so the relationship between Christ being crucified, eating the fruit, being willing to die, taking the blame, is reversing that which happens in the garden. And what it does is it creates a body of people that are together in love. Now, obviously, you know the case that's not always what happens. Like in the church, there are obviously all kinds of sad reversions, but that's the way in which Jesus is akin to what happens in the garden. Like there's a relationship between the two. God was telling the truth. If you eat the fruit of the knowledge of good and evil, you will die. But when Adam eats the fruit, he refuses to die. He refuses to take death on himself. He right away blames Eve, and he blames the serpent, and he blames everybody. And he's basically trying to cast off the consequence of the eating of the fruit. And so ultimately, that's the solution, and in some ways, it does become the solution that we all live in, right? It's like we understand self-sacrifice as the manner in which we hold things together. As Christians, most of us, we understand it either explicitly or implicitly. We understand that if I want my family to hold together, I have to give of myself. Right? I have to sacrifice my whims and my little desires for the greater good. And when I do that, then I form a body. Then I participate in the formation of a true body.
Jesus comes along and says, I'm going to resurrect that ability for you. Jesus sort of reopens that door to Eden. You know, he sort of bursts past the cherubim with the flaming sword.
Well, that lines up with Tom Berg's myth of Tom Berg's story of the Ouroboros image, right? Yeah, of the serpent swallowing his tail and teaching us that for Tom Berg, we learned the secret of closing the world from the serpent, but it was still our willing action to do what the serpent showed us to do.
Right.
Yeah.